Okay, welcome to another episode of the Rugby League Outsiders. My name's Craig.
And my name's Karl.
And this week we've got an amazing guest in Kyle Bonser, who's done a ton of stuff in rugby league. We've got some incredible personalities within the Midlands involved in rugby league, and you've got a varied history throughout the game. So in this episode, I'd love to kind of dive into that and learn a little bit about your route through rugby, and then also talk a little bit about what you're doing now. So thanks for joining us.
Well, I contacted him as looking to put a referees episode together, and then I saw his CV, and it's way more than a referees episode, like covering a lot of bases here today.
Yeah, it's quite a bag of tricks that I've got in my refereeing and rugby playing career. It's all quite a lot. I've lived quite a lot of people say I live like 40 lives.
Yeah.
And yeah, through playing union and rugby league all throughout the year as well. Some of those has added to the consequences that I've had later on in my career as well. But yeah, basically I started playing rugby league back with Alan Robinson when he was at Coventry before they turned professional back in 2008, when I've just finished school. Started at Old Coventry's rugby club going up there, and then played for them, and they played Midlands State of Origin and stuff, which was pretty cool back then. And then, just kept going through and ended up playing... sorry, one sec, lads.
Yeah.
All right,
Do we need Mike a bit closer?
He needs to shuffle his chair over a bit.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, just try and get it as close to you as possible.
Yeah, sorry, sometimes with my brain injury that I've got now, I'll lose my train of thought.
Oh, mate, we can cut it and edit it as much as...
Sharpen all the errs out of it.
Yeah. Just breathe. Like that. I mean,
yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. Just tell us a little bit about like your initial introduction to sport. Yeah, into rugby league. Sorry.
Yeah. So I started playing rugby league back in Coventry Bears with Alan Robinson, Ty Watson, and players like that, and Troy Perkins was in and around and refereeing at quite a lot of that time as well. Yeah. And they were kind of like idols for me when I was growing up. I was a prop forward at the time in rugby union, so that kind of translated. Even though I was only 5'4", I was just kind of this burrowing prop forward. And one of the referees, Dave, was like, try and move in at hooker. Like, you'd be better if you could be a bit more of a ball player. And then when I turned 16, I was playing for Coventry's rugby union. And then I was playing, because you couldn't play in the front row back then until you were 18, I think.
Yeah.
So they pushed me back to scrum half. So I was just getting used to passing the ball about. And then my dad was from Oldham as well. So like I had that kind of northern connection, and he'd watch rugby league now and again, and Sky Sports, Leslie Barnicolo and stuff like that on the
heard of him.
And Bradford Bulls. Been ran through by some big wingers in my time as well. So I know all about that. And then when I went to uni, I studied sports science at college, at Henley College, and then got into sports science and rugby specifically down at the University of Glamorgan, which is now the University of South Wales. And we realised, me, Matt Turner, and a few of my friends, we could make it all about rugby league. We didn't really care whether it was union focused or not. You could do all your performance analysis on rugby league. You could do all your biomechanics, all of your assessments. You could just relate to rugby league. It was just called sports science and rugby. It wasn't called sports science and rugby union. So we kind of tailored it all to that. And then, then I got the opportunity with that. With Mark Griffin from Play Rugby USA gave us an opportunity to go out there into New York, play all out there. And it was mainly to coach kids out there, rugby union, but it was more like sevens and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And went out there for 4 to 6 months, I think it was. Just had everything paid for, flights paid for, a limited travel card across New York. Your accommodation was all paid for. You were paid while you were out there to work as well. And then that is like the rugby league dream, isn't it? So said to go out to New York, do some coaching, and everything's paid for. You'd be like, please. As a 19-year-old, just passing the interview and be like, right, mate, in March you've got flights out to New York. Yeah. You're going to be out there for 4 months. And then I was out there. I got the contract, and while I was out there, I searched, are there any rugby league teams about? I found the New York Knights. They were down on Pier 40, which is literally on the Hudson River. And then it's basically like a multi-storey car park with a sports pitch in the middle of it that's on a pier out on the river. And so I went there, trained for them, and they signed me and whatnot. And then, played all over New York, New Jersey, travelled all over with them every weekend, as well as coaching all over New Jersey, all out into the Hamptons and Montauk Bay and all that kind of stuff, Pelham, but as well as like the ghettos like the Bronx, Queens, Brooklyn, all that kind of stuff in the day job, and then traveling on the weekends. So I got to see everything. I remember once we played a festival. It was like a Nines festival down at Atlantic City, Sea Isle City. It was the longest, whitest beach I've ever seen in my life. And then we stayed at the Hotel Tropicana it was like a little mini rugby tour essentially. And it was $400 a night to stay in a room. So 10 of us paid $40 each, and we all just piled in. There was lads sleeping in the bath, lads sleeping on the floor and everything. And then the president, Rob Balachandran, he was in the room next door with a room to himself. Yeah, but it was an amazing time. And I was only 19 at the time, so luckily my brother visited me. He'd just come back from Afghanistan. And he'd come back and gave me his army ID. So that meant I could go on nights out and stuff as well. So, because obviously I'd gone from uni where I could go out and drink, and then gone to a country where I couldn't drink. But thankfully, one of our veterans owned a bar called The Australian, a guy called Matty Astle, who kind of was like my father figure while I was out there, took me under his wing and stuff, and was just so nice to me out there. And the hospitality in America was unreal. Like after a game, it'd be as much beer as you want, as much food as you want, like these big barbecue buffet spreads and everything like that. And it was just something else. And what I didn't expect was the standard out there was so high for our team. We had a French guy called Guillaume Seytat was our head coach, and he was meticulous. He wanted everything done exactly how it wanted to be done. All the plays, everyone had to run the right lines. Everyone had to offer themselves fitness-wise. We had to be the top of our game. And then we had lads that were a guy called Nigel Milgate, who was from Dubbo. He was our halfback, and he was the most talented guy I've ever played with in my life. A lad called Andrew Moody, who used to be at Hull KR Academy and stuff. Loose forward, just an absolute barnstormer of a loose forward, so dynamic in his footwork. And then we had a guy Regan Scott Hyde, his name was. He was a 6'5", muscle-bound, tattooed guy. He was a miner out on the Gold Coast and stuff, as far as I'm aware. But he used to play for like Mackay Cutters. And then basically he'd work in the mines for 6 months and then travel the world for 6 months. And that's how he ended up with the New York Knights. But we were on a roll there, and then we lost the first game. First memory of playing for them was I dropped the ball off the kickoff. Ball came over, I knocked on, and I was like, yeah, I'm here, lads. Don't worry, we've got this. So we lost to Connecticut Wildcats. We're playing on and Curtis Coons, who eventually played for New York afterwards as well. He was their captain as well. But one of the first memories, we were playing on 4G pitch, and I hadn't really played any 4G pitch back here, whereas now at uni, when I'm refereeing and stuff, it's quite common to be on a 4G pitch. But a lad took a high ball, got his legs took out from underneath him, slammed his head into the floor and was like mooing like a cow, essentially, like just really not with it in terms of consciousness. And we were like, shit. And then that made us like really apprehensive playing on. But then we won like 12, 13 games in a row, and we were really on for the national championship and everything like that at the AMNRL. And I was due to fly back before the final, and I said to Mark Griffin, I said, is there any chance I can stay on, and so I can play the final and then go home after that? And it was amazing. He said, literally, mate, like, you're doing such a good job, we're getting such good reviews from your coaching. And we were coaching like 7-year-olds all the way up to high school kids. So like such a diverse group of people, whether it would be socio-economic status or whether it be location and heritage and stuff. And he basically said, yeah, we'll extend it, we'll move your flights, I'll pay for the moving of your flights, don't worry about that, I'll keep on paying you, and tell you what, I'll even give you a bonus as well. And I was like, what a guy. You know? Yeah, he was an amazing guy. And I lived with Aussies out there, so it was funny when I came back home, my mum was like, how have you got an Aussie accent from living in America for 4 months? And that was, and it was the best, one of the best rugby times of my life, 100%. But set a standard for how my coaching would be and going forward, and how I'd set a standard for myself in terms of like tackle count and stuff like that when I got back to the UK.
So that sounds like an absolute dream. Episode in the can, finished, brilliant. Okay, but obviously there's another chapter then. So when you came back to the UK, what did you get involved with then? So
I come back from the UK. I come back to the UK, and carried on playing for Glamorgan University. I wasn't that good, so I played seconds and stuff like that. And basically, I had a cardiac arrest in my second year of uni. I drank too much, got spiked with ketamine. My friend found me, did CPR, and so that knocked me back loads. So I just didn't play much, and it took me till like the middle of my third year to start playing again, and just played in the third year and stuff. And then after that, I met a girl, and then annoyingly, I met a girl, but I also got offered
He said that sentence. I met a girl, annoyingly.
That's why I'm single now. So I met her, but I also got the opportunity to apply for being director of rugby for Indiana Rugby Club. I turned it down because I met her. And I was like, I could be shooting AK-47s in the bush. Nowadays, who knows what would have been. But anyway, so that led me to move to Exeter because her family were down in Devon and stuff.
Yeah. I
started working for an out-of-hours GP service there, just taking calls like NHS 111. But before that was a thing where it was just like literally, where are you? What's your number? What's up? Essentially, it's so much faster call processing. But yeah, then I got in touch with Joe Catcherside. And he was he was team manager of Exeter Centurions at the time, who were just down the road from me. So I was playing with Wessex Rugby Union as well when I got down there. And a few of their lads played for Exeter Centurions as well, and that's what kind of migrated me across to them. And I got on really well. They could obviously see that I was quite experienced and stuff. And I became player coach, and me and Joe started putting together like playbooks and stuff like that, and we started getting really good. I was playing at loose forward. We had lots of talented players within the side, and built on the strengths of them, and we became the second best team in Devon and Cornwall within that year. We got to the I can't remember what it's called now, but like the Southwest Cup final in our first year against Cornish Rebels, and just got pipped in that final. But like it was, I thought like I'm onto something here. I'm enjoying it. I'm doing it right, and then things didn't work out. With my relationship down there, I didn't really have any need to stay there anymore. And the girls that I was working with, in terms of the nurses I was working with, said like, with your sports science degree, you could get straight onto a nursing degree. You wouldn't have to do any college courses or anything like that. You could just get straight onto it. So I applied for nursing school, and ironically, I would have stayed in Devon. But my interview for Plymouth, I was actually on holiday with her family in Paris at the time. So I couldn't go to that interview, and then I got into De Montfort University, Coventry, and then moved back in with my parents at like 23. Massively thankfully to them, they gave me a profession to be able to move back in, and then just commuted to Leicester and back from Coventry to be able to train to be a nurse. And then I've been doing that about 10 years now. And
now you're refereeing. There's more to the story, isn't there? I don't want to skip any chapters out. So after that, how did you find your way back into rugby league at that point?
So I come back to Coventry, obviously, and then Coventry Dragons were a team back then. I was playing for Coventry Welsh Rugby Union as well at that time. I think a lot of from my memory loss and stuff, we'll go into, like a lot of the timelines blurred. I've had to like literally write a timeline down to realise when I retired, because I thought I retired at 28, and actually I retired at 26. But I moved back, started playing for Coventry Welsh, and then I knew a lot of the lads that I used to play Coventry Bears with, and they were playing for Coventry Dragons. People like Mark Hislop, Scott Fenton, and a few of those lads, and Harry Kaufman, who's now the captain, coach at Coventry Bears. So they were playing at Coventry Dragons. So I went down there, started playing for them, and got into their first team. And I was only 5'4", but I was playing prop forward, starting prop forward, and I was just trying to tackle everything in sight, and just trying to, I was started to run ultra marathons and stuff like that. So I had a good engine on me despite being a big lad. So I could just tackle all day long, and that's what I loved. And then things started to add up. I just kept getting concussions, broke my nose twice, and then I remember playing against Leamington Royals, and I tackled a player, and basically I came in at hip height to tackle him, and another player came at hip height from the other side, and his forehead just slammed down onto the top of my nose. And the lads looked at me and like, your nose is fucked. I went into the changing rooms, and I had like an S bend in my nose. And then I went back to the hospital in Walsgrave, and he basically said, just going to put some local anaesthetic in it, and then straightened it out with his bare hands. And I was like, yeah. So, but then after that, like as the season, that was the final season I think I played for Dragons, and they won the championship, then beat Northampton Demons. But I just kept getting concussed. Yeah. Whether it was a knock in training, whether it was a high shot in a game, I just couldn't stop this brain fog from happening, and just constantly getting concussed. And then when I look back on it, I don't even remember what my last game was and stuff. I remember playing against Birmingham Bulldogs, breaking my nose, but also making 36 tackles in a game. So I was quite proud of that, like, as a statistic. Because you see that in Union now, and it's like, this guy's made 14 tackles this game. And I'm like, 14? What time did he come off the bench? Like I said, I don't even remember my last game. I don't remember my last game for Cov Welsh and stuff like that. I just know that a decision was made for me to stop playing. And then I helped like run the water and helped a bit coaching with Dragons and stuff towards the end. But then I just stepped away from it then. I just couldn't do it anymore. Like, it was hard being on the sidelines, being able-bodied, and then not being able to play anymore because I had a head like a bag of smashed crabs, so to speak. Like, and so I stepped away from it, and then opportunity came up with Worcester Jaguars to start coaching again. And then I sent in my CV. My CV obviously looked quite good at that point with the Exeter stuff, the New York stuff and whatnot. Being a national champion out there and stuff, like, it looks quite good. And having done the sports science degree as well, like, it's a lot more backing than a lot of other people have, even though I've never actually done a rugby league level 2. Because whenever you go to do it, the courses are always cancelled because there's not enough participants. So I'd never actually done it, but I've obviously had a wealth of experience in coaching. Went down there, and it was a very difficult time during COVID, like, and when COVID ramped up, the restrictions they put on us just to try and coach a rugby team were a nightmare. Like, you were only allowed to coach for an hour at a time. You could have a maximum of 6 people, including yourself. So it was literally me plus 5 players. We ran it like clockwork. We ran it really well. We basically gave the lads time slots. What can you make? Like, if you're finishing late at work, you'll be in a later session. But if you're finishing early, can you make it to an early session? So I think we did like 5 till 8 o'clock. Or 5 till 9. So I'd go down there I'd travel from like Peterborough to Droitwich, coach for 4 hours, where I tried structuring it. I didn't want to do the same session for everyone, because if I had everyone, if I could, and the stars of the line, I'd organise like hookers and props, and then second rows and centres, and start gelling this team together based on how they'll play in a game. So like halfbacks and centres, or fullbacks and wings, getting them all to play together, because then you can work on specific elements of the game that will relate to when they can all play together. They've got that gelled aspect, because I'm a big fan of second rows and centres just being interchangeable and just being like able to migrate around, and when the props are knackered, having your second row and centre coming in to do work, take hit-ups together. And then when you've got a play and you've got a halfback, second row, centre, wing, and having that set up there, they're all gelled and they all know what they're doing together. And I was always a big fan of any ball, and this was going back to New York, any player should be able to run any line, pass any out the back pass, and hit any wedge. And you see that in Super League and the NRL, certainly. Everyone's such a good ball player, and they can all do these passes out the back and stuff like that. So things didn't work out at Jaguars. I put a lot of time and effort into it, but a thing that frustrated me, which kind of led me into refereeing more than it did coaching, was with refereeing, I got paid for it. And you go there, you do your time, and you get paid for it. And you get paid with relative to your mileage and stuff like that, and how far you're travelling. And you feel appreciated for your time there, because without you, it wouldn't happen. Without a coach, a training session wouldn't happen. But I think at quite a few clubs, obviously, it's cash strapped and stuff. But without your coach, you've not got a team, or you're struggling. And not to get any kind of financial compensation for that. Maybe if we filled the temporary stands we were going to have.
What's this temporary stands story all about?
there was a story that the Stuart wanted temporary stands to be put erected at Droitwich for all our fans.
Right.
My nan and the rest of the ladies in the care home were going to all come out.
There seems to be a little bit, like, we've spoke to a few people about...
Alex and Matty. And
Worcester Jaguars now, they appear to have huge plans, bigger than what was ever going to come off.
To be fair, when I first joined it, I bought into it.
I'm going to rewind just a little bit. What was this Euro Championship? So I've only ever briefly heard it mentioned. What was the plan with it?
Yeah, so I didn't know massive amounts about it, but from what was sold to me was that it was an international amateur competition across Europe. There'd be teams like Chinasau, and there'd be a Greek team, a Spanish team would be involved and stuff. And basically I didn't even know whether it was like it would be hosted, like a Nines festival would be hosted in a certain area and stuff like that. And I remember, like, when I played for Coventry when I was a kid as a Union player, we went on tour to Prague when I was 17. God knows how my mum let me go. She didn't know about strip club 6.
Didn't know about Prague.
Yeah, she didn't know about strip club 6 floors underground, that's for sure. And went out there and we played like a team out there, and we didn't realise we played the Czech national champions, and we got absolutely pumped because we were just an amateur team in Coventry that were at like the 6th tier of amateur rugby. So I don't know any more than that, but it definitely all fizzled out.
Who run this competition? Or the competition never happened? Was it RFL or was it just some brainchild or somebody?
I think it was some brainchild or someone with deep pockets, but
well, not that deep.
No,
never got
not.
off the ground.
No. I don't think it ever materialised to anything, but it was ambitious.
The only reason I asked about that is because I recently, probably about 6 months ago, I saw something along similar lines that there was some Euro competition that was coming about, and
maybe there's still embers of that holding around.
Franchise or something. I don't know, but I think we'll keep an eye on it.
Get Ryanair on board. Who knows? Get a cheap flight out there. If we can get them all out for 20 quid.
Well, this is the thing. Like from me, like I know how hard it is to get a team to travel to Boston or to
exactly.
You know what I mean, or Lincolnshire or whatever. It's it's hard work to get.
Well, that was one of the main reasons why Coventry Dragons folded, in my opinion, because we were the best team in the Midlands, and then the option was basically given to either go into a Yorkshire League or go into the London League, and that would mean coaches and 2.5 hours travel to games and stuff like that to play, and then travel back. And I think a few of us just wanted to be the best team in the Midlands, and that was good enough for a lot of us, and it's a shame that 2 clubs at the peak of their playing abilities both folded in Northampton Demons and Cov Dragons.
I often wondered what had happened to Coventry, the Dragons, because I played for Wolverhampton, and they were always a great, strong team. They just seem to just disappear out of nowhere.
Yeah, it kind of just folded over. We won that championship, and then it was gone, and it was sad. Because you had such a great camaraderie. We were playing at Cov Tech, which weren't the best ground in the world, but they had a great camaraderie with all the lads, and we'd go on nights out and all that kind of stuff. But I think sometimes teams try and extend more than they need to too soon, and maybe that's what happened, And
do you think there's ever a case of that sometimes you can have too many rugby teams in one area? Because you had both the Dragons and the Bears, didn't you, at that time? Or were both clubs flourishing at the time?
Well, funnily enough, the Bears weren't in our league. The Bears were in
they were in
the reserve league,
like national or something at that point.
So I think it also depends on how many universities you've got in that area as well. So like with Coventry, you've got Coventry Uni and you've got Warwick Uni as well. So you've got an abundance of young talent there. But then it's difficult to sustain that for lads that go back home for summertime, because they might be there at the start of the season, where they're still doing their exams and stuff like that. But then when they go, all of a sudden you've got less of a team to stock to supply from. But it goes back into relying on union players in their off season to play, and that's always going to be a case in the Midlands. And the difficult thing for me, that as we'll go on to the head injury side of things, it's accumulation. Players need rest, but if you want to play league and union, you're going to have to structure your kind of rest periods, which is why it's great that the RFL have brought in this December break, where they want everyone to stop, tools down essentially, and have the rest. Everyone in the game, just not to play in December essentially, and take December off to avoid head knocks. And I think it's a good decision, to be fair.
Kyle, I just want to kind of close the loop before we get into the head stuff. And so obviously you sat here now with a Team Colostomy shirt on. So like quick whistle stop tour, you playing, had a great career all over the world, playing, coaching, dabbled in coaching,
refereeing,
then got into the refereeing, and you sat here now with the colostomy shirt on. So close that loop for us.
Yeah, all aboard that purple train. And so basically going back to Matt Turner, one of the lads that I did sports science and rugby league with. He'd previously set up a charity rugby team called Robbie's Ruse, which was based in the London area, that was connected to the Saying Goodbye charity. So he had two nephews that died in infancy. His sister lost 2 children, and then so we set up this charity rugby team to try and raise money for it. And then so I played a couple of games for him. Was their top try scorer as well, which is handy. And basically. I'd finished rugby, all that I'd finished with Jaguars and all that kind of stuff. And I was in a bit of a low point in my life. My ex had just left me. This is all to do, there's memory loss stuff involved in that as well, and the strain on the relationship that brought. But basically he just messaged me saying, why don't you come run the water for us? We've got a game in London for Team Colostomy. And I was like, all right, sound, yeah. Give me a little day trip. I just drove down there in my car, and they played in a stadium in Tottenham, like an athletics track thing. They played a Masters game down there. I can't really remember who it was for, but I was down there, and then I found myself, I weren't running the water. I was help running the warm up and help coaching, like giving input and stuff like that, and just a great set of lads.
Yeah,
and had a beer afterwards and stuff like that, and they just welcomed me. Giovanni, who's the mastermind behind all of it, gave me some stash. He was like, mate, have a shirt on us, have some shorts, have some socks, have a hoodie and whatnot, and just started chucking stuff my way. So I was wearing the brand essentially.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, we've got a game with Batley Bulldogs at the Fox's Biscuit Stadium. And I was like, I love my biscuits, get me there. If it smells like biscuits, I'm playing on that pitch. Didn't realise it was on a hillside.
Oh, yeah. Massively.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like, yeah, I've played in a few like amateur rugby clubs in like Nuneaton. There's a place called Manor Park, and it's like that. And they're known for just having their way second half and just mauling you down the hill.
Yeah.
So, I played my first game loose forward against British and Asian Rugby Association, and it was a tasty game as well.
Yeah,
but I realised that so I couldn't play in the first game in London because it was Masters, and I'm only 32, so you have to be 35 to play in Masters, so I couldn't play in it. But I realised I could play in red shorts, not receive any contact. Lads in black shorts are going to take full contact, so I could tip onto them, they crash through and everything like that. And I could play again, yeah. I could have my hands on the ball again.
Can I just touch on that? So Colostomy UK, when they play...
Yeah.
Do they play? It's essentially Masters rules.
So
with the coloured shorts, yeah.
Yeah, so they play PDRL, which is Physical Disability Rugby League, which is basically you can play mixed gender, you can play mixed ability. Red shorts means you don't receive any contact. It's just touch for you.
Yeah.
So to tackle, it's just touch, and to be tackled, it's just touch, which is hard to break the line, to say the least. When someone could just go, and then you touch them. Wish I had some speed. And and then black shorts, full contact, and like the lads with stomas, and they wear like a cricket cup over the stoma and wear a band like to protect it, and then full contact. Like lads like Cav still play for Chorley Panthers now with a stoma and still smash it in and scoring tries and stuff. They're just amazing people, you know. And but for me that gave me an outlet where I could play again. And then all of a sudden I'm being told I'm playing at Batley. There's a game at Bradford Bulls and stuff like that at Odsall. And I'm like, I'm getting to play at stadiums I never would have made it at my playing career. And we've got games lined up at Widnes Vikings, stuff like that. And hopefully, I said I'll keep playing until we tick off all the Super League teams. We're playing against Wales in a couple of weeks. If the blisters from this 200-mile ultramarathon heal quick enough, I'm playing funnily enough, when our degree in sports science was at Treforest in Pontypridd, we'll be playing at Pontypridd Rugby Club at Sidus Road. And that's a dream to play there as well. So if I can hobble around there against Wales PDRL, and then there's a chance to play internationally and stuff like that, because effectively I'm disabled now. My mind doesn't work like it used to. It's very frustrating, and I never signed up to it, but it gave me a lease of opportunity. And then going back to PDRL, they also developed a wheelchair rugby team.
Just about to touch on that, yeah. So the career doesn't end there; it just keeps going.
Yeah. So I won the Rookie of the Year last year for playing for Team Colostomy. Scored quite a few tries and stuff like that. A chip and chase that's quite legendary at Aberravon Rugby Club. I've never done one in my playing career, but I managed to get one in now, so that's the second career sorted. I've also just last weekend we played at Brentwood Eels, so we travelled down to Brentwood, and I scored their first ever wheelchair rugby try as well. So
awesome.
Wheelchair rugby. So we did a taster session in Sheffield a couple of months ago, and it blew my mind. It's so physical, it's so technical, and it's still all rugby league.
Yeah.
Because it's wheelchair rugby league, not wheelchair rugby union. And when we had a guy called Kevin, I think his name was, who's an Irish guy, but he plays for a club down south, and he was like coaching us, and he was like, mate, it's just like rugby league. You still need to hit your lines, you still need to hit the ball moving. You can't hit it standing still and then wheel forward. You've got to wheel and then take the ball on at speed, pick a line, pick a gap, and draw and pass, and it's all still the same. It's just in a wheelchair. But yeah, we had this taster session, and it's like, it's so easy for you as an able-bodied person to be like, right, get to that desk. You'd be like, run, sound. And then it's like, right, get to that desk. Okay, what do I do now? Like, so in terms of accessibility, so like we were saying about stigma and stuff like that as well, like as an able-bodied person then going into a wheelchair, you don't want to be perceived as this guy faking that he needs a wheelchair to play rugby. It's nothing like that. It's actually about, if you've got two people in a room, or one person in a room that is in a wheelchair, they need to be involved in sport. And if you've got access to 9 other wheelchairs that you can play wheelchair rugby in, and you all hop in, and then we're all of a sudden all playing a 5-a-side game of rugby league, with the tags and everything like that, and all the rules set, they've got a level playing field to play against you in sport. And that's what makes it inclusive. And the more we can set up and get this wheelchair rugby team rolling, and people love it. The people in the team absolutely love it. It's lower risk of injury for people as well. So we've got lads with leg injuries and stuff like that can still play in that. And like me last week, I had this 200-mile ultramarathon to attempt last week in Wales. But I could still play in that game because I knew I wasn't really going to be injured in that game. I had a bit of a tight back from all the wheelchair pushing. But it's all about accessibility, and people should not be afraid to get involved in disabled sport and accessible sports to be able to give the opportunity to someone else. And everyone's a winner then, you know?
Well, my opinion of wheelchair rugby league now is that it isn't a disabled sport.
No.
And I don't, do you feel the same? It is a disabled. Well, it's a sport for everybody, isn't it? Essentially.
But
now.
then
I suppose that's because I've been doing the podcast. I've been watching the sport for 12 months. But yeah, I feel that rugby league has broken down that stigma already, and I don't feel like it is a sport just for disabled people anymore.
But then one caveat to that would be, just playing devil's advocate, right?
Yeah.
What about if an able-bodied person was really good at wheelchair rugby? Could they represent England?
Yeah.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
But then are you taking a spot of someone that's...
The French had this debate, didn't they? That was their sort of...
Yeah, that's what they were saying in the series last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, but like we spoke to people like James Simpson, he said, well, the chair... It puts everybody on an equal...
It's a leveller.
It's a leveller.
Yeah. If you're really good at it, why not? You know, like... Yeah, and I think that's an interesting thought to take forward with all of this. Like, if I was to get really good at it, would I consider representing my country and stuff? Because same with PDRL. Now that my mind doesn't work like it used to, and I'm playing to a decent standard with Team Colostomy, if an opportunity came up to play for England PDRL, or I could go and train for them, would I? Probably, yeah. Yeah, if I could stay fit and all.
So, Kyle, obviously, you know, we've got the content, you know, we've got a bit of a timeline there of your life and the stuff you've been doing. And there's a very definite point sort of midway through where, you know, you in effect, you lost your ability to play, you know. Yeah. Can you talk us through like that moment when you realised that was happening and thought, I can't do this anymore, and what you was thinking and feeling then?
Funnily enough, it's a big blur. Like, I don't remember, like, as I was saying, I don't remember my last game. I don't remember my last game for Coventry Welsh, my last game for Coventry Dragons. I just remember not playing anymore. And I wasn't playing anymore because my head was wrecked. Like, and I just kept getting multiple concussions, whether it be in training, whether it be in games and stuff like that from high tackles and things. And I decided to myself that was my playing career over. And then, like, initially I stepped away from rugby completely, never went down to a rugby club, and I still rarely go down to a rugby union club now, but I should do, because they're my mates. Just because I can't play anymore, don't mean I can't go down, enjoy the game and have a pint. But I find it difficult being very able-bodied, but not being able, like, everyone's like, oh, come on, mate, just strap your boots on, you'll be fine, don't worry, you won't get hit in the head, come on, just strap on.
Yeah.
And you can't, you have to reserve yourself from that. And like I was saying, I had to do a timeline I've had loads of treatment for the Head for Change charity, so I reached out to them. I was struggling with my mental health as well as all this memory loss issues and breakdown of a marriage. And well, it wasn't a marriage, I was due to get married in August last year, but she left me 4 months before we got married, paid off all the wedding and everything like that. So I lost massively. I was stepchildren and stuff like that, so I lost all that identity, so I was really depressed and suicidal at that point. And then that's when I went and volunteered for the 200-mile ultramarathon, went down and did the water for Team Colostomy, and then I just got in touch with Head for Change, and then Alex Popham rang me that day. Like, obviously Alex Popham, Wales, former Wales international, now unfortunately has early onset dementia, rang me and said, how are you getting on?
Yeah.
With this stuff we can do to help you, and gave me the Thrive app. And basically, they gave me access to this NHS-backed app called the Thrive app. And then I had 13 weeks of counselling over Zoom, like with a fantastic lady that just helped open me up about it all. And then from that, I also got involved with Rylands Garth, who do the litigation side of all the claim that's currently going on against the RFU, the RFL. Obviously, because I've played rugby union, rugby league from the age of 12 to 26, and throughout the year always playing, the difficult thing was like just the sheer volume of training. And only on reflection I realised, like, I played at a decent standard, but I played for county, I played for the Coventry schoolboys, all that kind of stuff. And I was playing basically, I was probably training 3-4 times a week, playing twice a week, sometimes playing 3 times a week when I was at 16, because you could play for a senior team on a Saturday, play for your club for Colts or whatever on a Sunday, and maybe play for the county on a Monday. No one's tracking all of that, you know what I mean? And then back in the day, contact was full contact, and everyone loved contact, so everyone coached contact. Whereas now they're looking at 15, 20 minutes per week aside from the game. And just the sheer volume of all of that. So did
you say you was essentially like an advisor to them, or?
For what, sorry?
So what was the company called that you've just mentioned? You were talking about
Head for Change?
Yes.
Yeah, so they got me involved with the litigation from Rylands Garth and stuff like that, and the legal side. They then got me in touch with Recognition Health, and basically they got my head scanned in a very different way to the you would get from the NHS.
Right.
So they gave me a MEG scan at Aston University Hospital, Aston University Brain Clinic, essentially. And it's like an MRI, but you sit in a chair and a big machine comes down over your head, and then you have to keep your eyes open for 8 minutes, keep your eyes closed for 8 minutes. It's not like a Clockwork Orange. You're not like pinned like that. You are allowed to blink, but the focus is keeping your eyes open and then keeping your eyes closed. And then they do an MRI, and that checks for conductive pathways within your brain. And they found about 20 out of 70 pathways within my brain were microscopically damaged because of head trauma from rugby. And then I had a series of memory tests and stuff like that, that similar to those they would do at a memory clinic for someone with dementia. And I had quite a few deficits there as well. And then obviously I got in touch with my own GP and stuff like that. And I remember a week before my 31st birthday, the GP said, sorry, this is a tough time. The week before, he said, I think you might have CTE. You're probably going to get early onset dementia. There's nothing we can do for you but refer you to the memory clinic and get some help from the Alzheimer's Society. And I'm like, I'm 31. What the fuck?
Yeah.
You know, like, and my whole world just like zeroed in. Like, I'm an intensive care nurse by trade. Like, and I know that's on its way out now. And I'm having to think of other avenues to work, and obviously losing a profession that I've worked 10 years to do is incredibly difficult. Like, and I work my way out through lists and stuff like that, but it gets even harder having risk assessments, and obviously being open with the occupational health side of things, you end up having like more and more stringency on everything you're doing, and you feel like there's like over supervision on what you're doing just to make sure you're competent and safe, and that makes it more and more difficult to carry on when your wages are going from 45 quid an hour to 16 quid an hour now.
Yeah.
You're getting paid less and less for being more experienced, and then what's the point? You know, like, as much as you love the job, I'd rather be a support worker in a hospital, just helping wash people, dress them and shave them, and do the enjoyable parts, and not have the responsibility of giving all drugs and stuff.
Kyle, I mean, it seems like from the outside, you know, you've been dealt a shit card there, you know what I mean? But you don't seem to be bitter about the sport, or you don't seem to, maybe you are, I don't know, but you seem to like still be relishing those opportunities that you're getting given. You're seeking those opportunities. You want to keep your hand in, and you want to, you know, I mean, you came down an incredible job at the Nines Festival, and you're still, you know, you're still at it.
Has that part of your life played a big part in why you want to referee and why you want to make the game safer for other people?
Yeah, that's the big passion of mine for refereeing, is making the game safer, allowing players to play the game fairly, and trying to avoid the head contacts that cause me to have my head now. Like, if I can avoid those and treat them with the respect that they deserve in terms of carding someone for hitting someone in the head. Like, I sent someone off a couple of weeks ago after a player went down on the loose ball, dived on a loose ball, player coming in, swinging arm to the head. But I was like, you could have contacted him any point on his body there to make the tackle complete. You've chose to go and hit him in the head. Yeah. You're off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We don't need that in sport. And the sport can be played with less impact on the head. And that's through good refereeing and setting a standard of where the tackle height is. And I'm really proud of the RFL. There's a lot of shit that goes on towards the RFL, but at least they've done a hard line and been like, right, we need to set some standards of below the armpit to try and reduce these. And it takes it'll take a couple of seasons of players getting carded loads for them to realise, look, you can't tackle like that anymore, otherwise you're going in the bin. And that's how you change a sport, is by heavily penalising it. It's like in football, for example. If they finally bit the bullet, mic'd up refs, and then just sent off everyone that swore at the ref, 2 seasons of lots of red cards, people are soon shut up and behave themselves a bit more, knowing the refs mic'd up. And that's the only way to change the whole VAR situation in football. That's a whole other thing, but that's the only way to change it, is have referees giving clarity on their decisions and being able to hear VAR is what makes rugby so great.
Right, Kyle, we're essentially a few games into the new season now. So how do you feel that the new tackle height restrictions have been taken by the teams, and what's it like? What's it been like for you refereeing it?
I think a lot of teams are getting really good at it, and teams are putting in smashing tackles now, and you look at it and you think, no, that's a great tackle. Yeah. Because it's below the armpit, hit with the shoulder, wrap around the arms, and it's got everything that requires a quality tackle that is legal, where it's low limit to the head. Their head might snap back a bit, and that might cause a bit of issues, but overall, you're not getting shot in the head. And for referees, we're all getting used to laying the law down really early and making sure those first few tackles are called, not necessarily with cards, but called as penalties, so that lads know, right, this ref doesn't accept a high shot. Because if you do and you let it go, it's difficult to call ones later that you didn't call before. Because people will say, oh, well, what about our player in this one? And what about 5 minutes ago when he did that? And I was like, mate, I'm trying to count to 5. Like, you know what I mean?
Enough to think about.
Yeah. So, so I do think it's getting better, and I think players are getting better. And for me, another benefit of refereeing, and this is one thing that's underestimated in refereeing, I've got the best seat in the house to watch rugby league because I'm on the pitch. Yeah. I'm 2 foot away from someone getting absolutely smashed, or 2 foot away from an amazing flick pass that's caused a broken gap. I love the game, and that's why I want to be in the middle of it. And it's the best seat in the house, you know. And people forget that. People referee because they love it, because you have to really love it because you get no other thanks doing it otherwise, you know. And but I've really enjoyed refereeing books and stuff like that, and then going into the new season as well. And it's getting better, but it has to be hard-lined, and it has to be a transformative season of tackle height. And yes, there'll be loads of cards, but there should be, because that stuff is no longer allowed, and it causes cards.
Well, I think we was talking to Jamie George Buchanan about it, and plus the I can't remember his name now, but the scientist who done all the study for the head knot for the Super League and everything, they were saying, Jamie Jones Buchanan says, look, gone are the days of lads just wanting to go out and just rip each other's heads off, but the lads need protecting from themselves. Yeah. What's your kind of take on that?
Yeah, so how do I put it? I still think this game is all about evasion. And that's why I love the NRL. It's all about evasion. It's not about smashing into contact. Yeah, there's big hits that go in now and again where people get blindsided and stuff. But the game's still all about draw and pass, create space to go through. And they're the best tries to watch. The best tries aren't the guy that steamrolls 5 people and then goes over the line. The best tries are the ones that involve kicks and flick passes and all the magical stuff that makes Fijian Rugby League so good and Sevens so good to watch. Personally, I think rugby union's overcrowded on a pitch. I think 15 aside is too much.
I agree.
I think that's why there's hardly any tries being scored. It's too many players. Yeah. Players are fitter than ever, able to cover the pitch way more quicker. It's really hard to get over the line in Union because there's no space, because 15 aside. Whereas when we played 9s at Midlands, great tries being scored, all about evasion. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's why Sevens is growing, because it's all about evasion. It's not all about big hits in Sevens. It's about draw and pass and making tries. So going back to what you said in terms of how we change it and put a hard line on it. I think you're definitely going to have a transformative season where there are lots of cards, and even as a fairly junior ref now, like I've given some yellow cards that should have been reds, like whether it's been a tip tackle or whether it's been a high shot or a shoulder charge, and I do reflect sometimes. I think should have been a red. Next time that's a red card. Like, and whether it changes the impact of the game or whether it ruins the game, so what? It's their fault for putting a shoulder in on someone and not wrapping their arm around, or purposely shotting someone in the head on the floor, or tip tackling. They've got to learn from that, and they'll learn from it by having a red card for it. Like, if you just penalise them, they might not learn. They might think, I got away with that one. Probably should have been a red, but I got away with it.
And are you prepared? Are you prepared for? Obviously, you're gonna get a bit of flack for that. You're gonna get a bit of stick for that. For refereeing it in that hard line way. But are you mentally prepared for what could come your way?
Well, I nearly caused the game to be abandoned at Sherwood under 18s versus Leeds. Sherwood turned up with Sherwood only had 11 players, or 12. No, Sherwood only had 12 players, and then Leeds had an abundance of players. They travelled with like a squad of 20 or whatnot. But I said, like, do you want to level it up, make it 13 aside or whatnot? And they said, no, we'll have it 11 aside, and then they'll have they can have one sub, and then Leeds will have loads of subs, and then they'll still play at 11 aside. For me personally, they should just lend them some players and have more people playing rugby league. But when you're in a competition, you have to make it competitive. And basically, Leeds had a Leeds player headbutted someone after they scored a try. Didn't like what their captain said, headbutted him. He got sent off right in front of me. So he got sent off. And then there's a yellow card for too much back chat and stuff, something that I'm really trying to knuckle down, because the football aspect of attitudes towards referees is growing.
No, it's disgusting.
Especially in the Midlands. And like, I've spoken about it before, people have refused to shake my hand after a game and stuff like that. Like, refuse to speak to me or telling me it's the most biased refereeing they've ever seen and whatnot. And I'm like, mate, I'm just here to ref a game. Like, I'm not here for this. And I there's two things I say when I referee at the start of a game. I lay the law down, and I go over to each team separately and say, all right, lads, I'm Kyle, I'm your referee for today. There's two things I don't accept. High shots, that's the reason I'm not playing and I'm reffing, and back chat back to me. It's not what I come here for, you know? And going back to that game at Sherwood, then that player where he dived on a ball and then got shot in the head, that was a red card. And then they were down to 10 players. And then obviously, they were down to 9 players. So once that sin bin came back on. And then they knew that even though they were winning by 20 points or whatnot, if they had another card, the game was over, because they ain't got 9 players. You can't play with less than 9. So
is that a rule?
Yeah.
Oh,
so you have to play.
Did you know
the most you can play.
I didn't. Well, I knew there was a limit at some point, but I didn't know what it was.
So the most you can play with is 9 players. So if you end up then getting another person binned or another person sent off, the game's abandoned, because they haven't got a team to play against. Whether you've got subs or whatnot, you're no longer legally allowed to field a team of 9 players, because you've had 2 or 3 sent off. That's it. Yeah. So then they had to be really squeaky clean to be able to stay on the pitch, you know, despite turning up with 20 players.
And did you notice the difference at that point?
Yeah. No back chat to me, I can tell you that for sure.
So they can do it, you know what I mean? And if you don't lay down the law, then they won't do it.
And that's another thing that you learn over time in terms of back chat. Like, I try and like tell them as players, like, mate, I don't need any of that. I'll try and warn them before I ping them for it. I'll be like, look, I don't need you talking to me about it. I don't need you asking me whether that's a knock on or whatnot. If I see it, I'll call it. Like, keep shut. Like, or like in a breaking play, I'll say to the captain, look, you're number 11. Keeps chirping, tell him shut up, or he'll be binned or whatever. And I've binned people for back chatting, because there's people that like are just out there. Some people get stuck in a mentality where they're out there to try and get sent off. Like, I've refereed someone before at a university game, and he was like, oh, right, how long's left? And he was like, I was like, 15 minutes. He was like, right, let's see if I can last 10. And then shoulder charge someone and got sent off. Like,
that's just ridiculous.
You know what I mean? Like, some people just have this, they're there to just cheap shot people.
Yeah.
They're there to, it's like someone going on a night out trying to assault someone.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Like, if you punch someone in the head or try and purposely high tackle someone, in my opinion, we're all here to play a game. Like, if you then suddenly whack someone in the head, like, you wouldn't do it in the street. So why do you do it in a rugby match, you know? And don't get me wrong, I was dirty as hell when I was a player. I was always scrapping. I was like a little Tasmanian devil. I'd always get in scraps and stuff. But
yeah, Craig will like that.
You got more cards than fucking Father Christmas, you.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, you also like you try and make it a clean game, and the more the game becomes clean and gets cleaned out through refereeing and through us orchestrating a clean game and minimising these bad contacts, the more people will play, because people aren't there to get hit in the head, and that's always been my case. Like, and when we were saying about like lack of frustration with rugby and stuff like that, so I had one of my counselling sessions that I had was over Skype. I didn't have a chance to get back to my van, so I was doing it just in a car park at Warwick Shopping Centre in Cov, just over Zoom on like on my phone. I just broke down, and I was like, I fucking love this game, and I didn't pay for any of this. I didn't expect any of this. I didn't expect to be forgetting where my keys are, forgetting what I'm doing, and forgetting like whether I've locked the house or locked the car or whatever, or forgetting where I've having to write lists every day just to make sure I get through the day, or missing emails, missing events, and all this kind of stuff that's become quite controlling in my life now. I didn't sign up for any of this. I signed up to play a game I loved, because I loved it. I watched. Thankfully, my dad being a big Man United fan, we used to go to Old Trafford to watch Super League Grand Final, because that was the only really way you could get to Old Trafford to watch anything, because it was too inaccessible to watch United. I remember watching Kevin Sinfield. Kieran Cunningham was one of my idols. When I switched to hooker, it was like Kieran Cunningham was the man. He was a stocky lad, pick and go and burrow himself over the line, and that was my kind of idol back then. Watching Rob Burrow, Ken Sinfield, JJB and people like that were my absolute idols. Rob Burrow especially, being a tiny guy playing against all these giants. Yeah. And like, I got a lot from that from him. And it's so sad to see what's happening now. But like, yeah.
Kyle, I just want to, you just talk about your idols, playing idols. Do you have anybody that you sort of look up to as a professional referee that you sort of try and mimic their style of refereeing?
I watch a lot of NRL. I find NRL a lot more accessible,
right?
Because of their YouTube app. Basically, the Super League are getting a lot better at it, I must admit, and the production-wise from Sky and stuff like that, and the Super League app. Whereas a couple of seasons ago, the Super League highlights would be put on with no commentary, and it's like.
We talk about this every week. It's
painful. Just and then like with the NRL, there's a highlight within like 10 minutes of the game finished of like a full 6-minute highlight of all the tries, all the big moments in the game. And yeah, people like Ashley Klein and people like that are just like, and then Ben Thaler and people like that as well. Like, but a lot of my idolising from reffing has been from young people that I watch referee, like, because no one's really watched me that much other than Midlands Nines and stuff. That was a great mixing pool, and the great thing about festivals for rugby league, you get to watch other people ref. And obviously I was touch judge for both finals and stuff like that. You get to watch how other people do it and how other things people do that you might think are good or think are bad and stuff like that, like that I wouldn't necessarily do myself and stuff. And learning, like, I always love the way professional referees talk to players like Jamie Move or whatever and stuff like that, and like talk to them as people. And like the nice thing for me, for being a Midlands Rugby League referee and being so involved in rugby league over the years in the Midlands, when you're playing against a team, when you're refereeing a team that, like Worcester, for example, Worcester Rebels, I used to coach all of them. So like when you're saying Sean move, Charlie move out the way and stuff, like you feel like a pro ref because you're saying their actual names, but it's just because you know them. And the same with Coventry Bears and stuff like that. And I find it difficult as a Midlands-based referee for people to feel like I'm being biased. I'm like, mate, I'm doing what I can in the game in the Midlands now. Like, I'm going to have ties because I've played Midlands Rugby League for years and years.
Yeah.
So I'm going to know people from Coventry Bears and from Worcester and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I'm your ref. I'm here to ref and get better at refereeing.
Karl, I wonder what have you learned, or what have you kind of uncovered since becoming a ref that you wasn't aware of when you was a player?
It's fucking hard.
Yeah, you mentioned that before. So
there's a million things to think of, and I think people expect Super League level of refereeing when you've got no touch judges, you've got no VAR, no TMO or anything like that, and they expect you to see absolutely everything. And just about being open and honest, but I'm sorry, man, I didn't see it. Like, I thought that wasn't a forward pass, so I didn't call it. Do you know what I mean? Or I thought you're in touch. I thought you knocked on. And as long as I stick to what I say and don't go back on what I said, that's the most important thing for me. If I think, because people think like, after you've seen it, how did you not see that was a forward pass? I'm like, oh, let me just check the replay. Like, I don't get any replays, you know what I mean? You get one chance to see it. And like, the hard thing for me with like having short-term memory loss is like, say a massive incident's happened, or someone's been tackled and they've like gone over on their knee and it's a horrendous like crunch of a knee ligament and stuff. And then all of a sudden you've got to remember what tackle it was on. Like, you've just watched a horrific event there and they were like, what tackle is it? And I'm like, So getting better at that and being like, as soon as an event's happened, being like, right, that's tackle 3. We're restarting on tackle 3 with the play of the ball there.
Yeah.
And
did you say it over and over again?
Yeah, so I'd probably call each tackle just to help me remember what tackle we're on. Do you know what I mean? Whereas a lot of referees that are more experienced and stuff like that, they might only tell you when it's tackle 5. Do you know what I mean? But I'll probably say 1, move, and then a lot of lads playing expect you to tell them to move. And there's nothing in the rules as a referee that tells me that says I have to tell you to move. I can say held.
Yeah, you're on
then
about
you got 4 seconds. Yeah, then you got 4 seconds. Like, and I'll have like last week, a couple of weeks ago against Birmingham, I had this lad literally bollocking me saying, "You didn't tell me to move." I was like, "Mate, there's nothing in the rules that tells me I have to tell you to move. When I say held, you got 4 seconds. Get off him."
You do see that a little bit in the Super League. You know, the tackle will be made, perhaps the dominant, and they're looking over the referee, waiting for you to go, right, get off.
Yeah,
you know?
And that's what we used to do. We used to always, like, as players, try and hold them down for as long as you can, especially early on in the game, because you try and test the precedent of the ref of how long he'll let you. And we used to do turtle in, where you'd be dominant on them, and then you'd move to one side, move to the other to work your way off them, you know. And that's the nice thing about having such a good playing career. Although I didn't play professionally or anything like that, I know a lot of the dirty tricks in the game. So I'll tell people, mate, don't put your hand on his face when you're getting up off the tackle. You know what I mean? You don't need to be giving him a facial and all that kind of stuff, like, as you're getting him off the player. You know, like, and I try and iron that out, like the little forearms. And one thing I think needs to be stamped out a bit more is players leading in with a forearm, because that caused me a lot of head injuries when I was younger. Is ball carriers coming in and then purposely getting the forearm out there and shotting you in the head. And I've called quite a few of those last season through books where people are going in. It's all by means, hand them off if you want. Yeah. But if you're going in like that and then smashing them in the forehead.
I'll be honest, that's something I've always done.
Yeah,
and it's not to shot somebody with your forearm. I've always
bump them off with the ball.
You use it as a But
I think there's a difference to like trying to bump someone off with the ball, and then leading with an elbow or a forearm.
Barry McDermott.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, Baz. Yeah. Oh, one eye Baz. Yeah. Even with a carrying arm, you can decide where you're carrying that ball and whether you have that up in the arm and then hit them in the head with it. You're still responsible for your body during that contact, just as much as the defender is responsible for their.
Well, it happened at the weekend. So Telford Raiders had a development match against Quantums, Staffordshire Quantums, and a friend of ours, Pom, was playing, and someone led him with the elbow, struck him in the pec, and it's severed a tendon from his pec. So he's now got a big hole in his chest. You know, it literally lasted. Bear in mind, he's not played rugby he retired a while ago. He's not played for a while. He literally played 5 minutes, and within 5 minutes, he's probably looking at surgery. If not, he's got a hole in his chest for the rest of his life. You know, and it's like, and he was incredibly bitter because. You know, this guy led with the elbow, so it's got to be stamped out.
Going back to like playing and stuff like that, and a lot of people say like this litigation that's going on should only be for the professionals and stuff like that. When actually, a lot of people don't realise that in the amateur game, tackling technique is worse, fatigue is higher, so tackle height's going to be worse. Refereeing's not as good. And that's not our fault. We're all starting somewhere. Everyone has to start somewhere, you know. So there may be more high shots in the amateur game than there is recorded in the higher levels. There's going to be more cheap shots because there's no TMOs or anything like that. So like at the lower levels,
well, quite often there's no touch judge.
No, exactly. So there will be more high shots and more violent contact in the amateur game. Often, although they might not be as physical, they're still 100 kilo blokes running at each other. You know what I mean? The velocity of that. We did a biomechanical analysis during sports science that showed that at Wales international games, the international union level, that it was if you look at meters per second and stuff, and the weight of each player and the speed they're going at was equivalent. Each contact was a 40-mile-an-hour car crash, essentially, in terms of levels of force. So, and there's still, like someone said earlier, like, on one of the podcasts I was listening to, one of your guys there, Matty Robinson, said about you're giving a 100-kilo guy a 10-metre head start to run it. There's got to be something wrong with us for that, wanting to do that, and it definitely hits a chord there.
Right.
I mean, this is just, it's one of those where we could go on for hours and hours and hours, isn't it?
That's what I'm thinking.
I think what we'll do, I think we're going to have a couple of episodes here in the future. I think, there's stuff that I really want to dive into. Yeah. But
how long have we recorded already?
With the bits and bobs, the few breaks, we're at 1 hour and 12. So you're probably up to an hour easy, with the footage. So I think I'd just kind of like to ask, what your aspirations for the future. We'll talk about that. And I don't know if you've got a little finishing question.
No.
Anything you want to get across?
We've got the golden point to do as well.
Oh, yeah, we've got the golden point, yeah.
So
we'll do that. So like, in terms of aspirations and stuff, I'd like to see...
Let me just pause that question, because otherwise I'll be trying to finish. Okay, it's been incredible chatting to you. I know we could chat for hours and hours, and I'm sure we will. We'll have more episodes in the future. Just looking forward now, you talked about being a relatively fledgling referee. What are your kind of aspirations in the worlds of of refereeing? Don't know what happened to my voice then. It just went.
It's difficult because obviously I've got to essentially battle a brain injury whilst trying to get as good as I can at refereeing, and that might limit me in terms of like how well I get. But I'd like to referee decent level at the Midlands level, get experience enough to revel a cup final at the Midlands level. So I was touch judge for the Bucks Loughborough game and stuff like that, the Bucks Cup final there. I've refereed, sorry, I've just lost my train of thought. Thankfully you can edit this out so I don't sound a stick. Refereeing varsity games and stuff for unis, a fantastic opportunity. I refereed Oxford, and I've refereed loads of big unis like Oxford versus Oxford Brookes and stuff like that, and Trenton versus Nottingham and stuff. And I love doing that book side of things as well. Yeah. And it gives me something to do through the winter as well, which means I can referee all year round now. Yeah. Whereas I used to play, and I could potentially get into union refereeing as well, because I'd have stuff to do on a weekend during the winter time and stuff as well. But it's a lot of rules to keep in your head for various different codes and stuff as well. But there's always the opportunity. Ryan Cox, who's our boss, who's a great lad, you guys met at the Midlands festival. He always gives us the opportunity. Does anyone want to come up and referee at the Northwest Men's League and stuff like that? And a lot of the lads say it's like a baptism of fire up there. It's completely different. They know every rule crisp down to the T and everything like that. So I'd like to test the waters there over next year, I think, and see how well I get. I need to get... I was away or working when they last did the fitness grading, so I'd like to do that. They said I'll be fine running all these ultramarathons and stuff. Get as fit as I can possibly get, and then test the waters there and see what grading I can get as to what level I can referee at. Do more touch judging, and so with the touch judging, you get to watch top referees as well. When we refereed the Bucks final... the week before, I'd refereed Nottingham's varsity game, which was an absolute mud bath. It looked like one of those 1912 video things where they're all covered head to toe in mud. Yeah, but they allowed it to continue. And James Collins was refereeing, but we actually all had mics as well. And Steve Bromfield was our other touch judge, and he was the guy at Worcestershire Rebels when they played New Ravens. I said to him, Steve, I want to get into refereeing, what can you do? And he added me to the WhatsApp group, and the rest is history. So a massive thank you to Steve for allowing that to happen. And but basically, I can't remember what I was saying now. Basically, I'd like to see how far I can take it once I'm graded, and go if I can referee bigger games and touch judge bigger games and learning from that. But yeah, what we're saying, Loz, the difference in being mic'd up is massive, because then the cup final we did for Loughborough, we weren't mic'd up, and it's really difficult to get your point across of what you've seen. Like as a non-mic'd up touch judge, whereas it must feel amazing to have two touch judges mic'd up when you're refereeing in the middle of the park. So I'd like to experience that.
No, great. That's brilliant aspirations, isn't it? Yeah. So we ask previous guests to set a golden point question every week, and we'll do the same with you afterwards. So anyway, we had two guests last time, so we've got two questions for you.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So it's that time of the week when we ask our guests for the golden point question. Yeah, what is your golden question for this week?
Mine is, what do you eat pre-game?
Oh, that's a great question.
Good question.
That's a quality question, yeah. What was your like pre-match meal or your... Yeah. No pressure.
I know. Have you got anybody famous on your contacts?
Ooh, that's good. Yeah,
that's
and if so, who?
Yeah, if so, who? Name and shame them. Well, not shame them, but
And
name
how
them.
to get them.
Yeah.
And can you share them?
Can you share the number?
Okay, brilliant. Two amazing
Yeah, good
questions there,
questions.
so thank you very much. Just to summarise, the first question is, what is your pre-match meal? So what do you eat before playing in the past, refereeing now?
As boring as it sounds, it's an egg mayo sandwich. That's it. Yeah, that's all I've ever done.
Egg mayo, that's
egg mayo and a mango can of Monster.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I don't know which one's worse, though.
Yeah.
Egg mayo sandwich, fine. Can of Bonsor, no.
I think egg mayo is the devil's work. Like,
Yeah,
I can't
it's
handle it. Oh,
Living in
no,
a van,
no.
straight off the hob. Done. Get out. Go referee.
Okay, interestingly, Erin, who set that question, she says she eats dry pasta the night before.
Dry pasta.
I know, just crackers, but not crackers, but different. Let's say
It's like
that.
dry wheat a bit.
Yeah.
I'd only feed that to a goat. You know?
Talk to me about goats. Right, okay, next one. The other question was, have you got anybody famous in your phone? And if so, who?
No, I don't think I have, to be fair. Rhys Jenkins is probably the most famous person I've got on my phone, ultramarathon running legend.
Yeah.
First Welshman to run the Badwater 135. So that's probably the most famous person. He's a massive idol of mine, and I thank him for saving my life by giving me the opportunity to volunteer at the Wild Horse 200 and then do it last week. Sadly, I only got to 140, but yeah, he's probably the most famous person, and he's a big idol and massive respect to him. I've got a lot of time for that guy.
Nice.
Awesome. Yeah, Kyle, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on today. Like Craig said, we could probably record another 2 or 3 episodes quite easily with everything that you've done in the sport. I'm sure we will another time in the future. But yeah, thank you for coming on. I've really enjoyed learning about your journey through rugby league and especially into refereeing. I think it's been incredible.
Thank you. It's been humbling as a reflection of my rugby league career to be able to sit down and discuss it, actually, because it's only when you actually look back you see how much this game has given me, and I'm still grateful for that, despite my head injuries, my memory loss, and all that kind of stuff that I'm going through now, and having been diagnosed with progressive memory disturbance now, and being sent back to the memory clinic and not knowing what the future holds. At least I've got rugby league. At least I've got watching the game. I've got playing the game now for a team close to me and refereeing the game. So there's a future in the game for me that I won't turn my back on it just yet. But thank you.
Yeah, I think thanks again. But my biggest takeaway is just the fact that, I often believe that people that get depressed and down and frustrated, they tend to look back to the past seems bigger than the future, and it's like a big bright light in the past and you get down. The people that do well are the ones whose future is bigger than the past. Yeah. And it sounds to me like you're lining up a great future. Obviously, you've got a little bit of unknown in there and no doubt a little bit more frustration, but you definitely seem to have a can-do attitude rather than a can't-do attitude. So, yeah, absolute pleasure to meet you and to chat to you.
Thank you. If you just need to sit down and think about it, have a seat in a wheelchair and play some wheelchair rugby league.
Yeah, that's a great little plug.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Kyle.
Nice one. Thank you.
For all those watching, until the next video, take care. That's the final whistle for this week's episode of the Rugby League Outsiders. We hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to follow us on social media and share this podcast with your friends. And as always, if you have a story to tell, a club to plug, or a player that deserves recognition, we want to hear from you. So until next time on the Rugby League Outsiders, take care.